guide us through that. Coach Will, it's all yours. I'm going to mute. And everybody, let's just give him a hand as he comes. Yeah. All right, guys. How's everybody doing tonight? Everybody's good? I'm pumped up and motivated now. After that talk, got me ready to go. But tonight, I really want everybody here to walk away with some usable things that you can actually take and apply immediately. So, just now, you guys know I'm Carla's coach. We've been working together for quite some time now, probably a few months now, and Carla's been doing really, really good. She's been getting really, really good results. So, I'm going to teach all of you the same things that I've taught her, and I've been a coach and trainer now for 35 years. So I've been doing this since 1990. And the same things that I teach Carla and all my other clients, I'm going to be teaching you guys tonight. So I'm going to treat you guys as if you were my client. So I'm going to give you, like I said, some actionable things that you can walk away tonight with. So in just a few moments, I'm going to share my screen, but you probably all heard this before, where exercise or losing weight is simple. All you got to do is eat less and move more. By a show of hands, you can just raise your hand. How many people have heard that? You've heard that. So everybody here has heard that it's simple. And in a way, that statement is true. However, that's the same as telling a broke person, well, in order to not be broke, all you got to do is make more money and spend less. Like, that's pretty obvious. But without context, it's useless information. So tonight, we're going to simplify everything. I always tell my clients that losing weight, getting in shape is simple, but not easy. So once we get everything down tonight that you need to know, we're going to make the simple and the easy, and we're going to combine them together. So tonight, we're going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about strategy, and we're going to talk about the things that actually work and how we can hold it all together. Because the most important thing is to not just get you to where you want to be, but help you stay there once you get there. Because a lot of people, I know some of you here tonight, have probably yo-yoed throughout the course of your lives of trying to get in shape, whether you're trying to get toned, whether you're trying to get fit, whether you're trying to be healthier. You go up and you go down, and you go up and you go down. You gain weight, you lose weight. But the one thing you don't lose once you know what to do is the knowledge. I always say, once you got it, you got it. And you can't lose the knowledge. And the things that I'm going to teach you tonight, I have been teaching people for the last, again, 35 years. So the knowledge never goes out of style, and it's always usable. So let me share my screen now. I know myself, I will go off on tangents that are based on this topic, but I'm going to keep myself focused because I don't want to have you guys here all night, and I want to give you the most usable information. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. All right. So there we go. So let me move this out of the way so we can, let's see. Now let me know if you guys can see my screen. Give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. We see it, but it's blank. It's just okay, blank. Yeah, it says screen. Let me try this again because it says paused. I don't know why it says that. Let's try this. All right, let me know if you can see it now. Yes, the truth about weight loss. Okay. So let me see if we can get there. All right. So why does it keep pausing? All right. Let's go back here because some reason, you know, you do all this and you practice it and it works fine when you're practicing it. And then as soon as you go live, I think you guys can see it now. Yes. Yes. Okay. All right. All right. So why is weight loss so difficult? Why is weight loss so hard? And there's a bunch of different reasons why weight loss is so hard. Remember what I said. Weight loss is simple, but it's not easy. But here's just a small portion of the reasons why weight loss is hard. So one of the main ones is information overload. And as they say, sometimes there's too many chefs in the kitchen. You got this person over here telling you to do this. You got that person over there telling you to do something else. You got that person over there telling you to do something different. And you got that person back there telling you to do a whole different thing. And now you got me coming here tonight telling you to do probably a combination of what all of those people are telling you to do, but maybe just saying it in a different way or giving you something slightly different. So there's a lot of information. You got TikTok, you got Instagram, you got all the social media sites, you got all the TV personalities telling you what to do and what's the best way to get in shape and lose weight. So oftentimes, as a consumer, as someone trying to actually get into shape, it can seem pretty daunting with all of the information. And I will admit that there is a lot of good information out there, but trying to decipher it all and put it all together, that's where it gets a little bit difficult. And I always say if weight loss and getting in shape was simple, I would have been out of business a very, very long time ago. So lucky for you guys, I'm going to make it as simple as I possibly can over the next 45 minutes to an hour. And I will give you guys a chance at the end to ask questions. So I'm going to try to speed through this so you guys can get all the information and you can get your questions answered. But then another reason why weight loss is so difficult is there's so many diets. We all know, and you've probably heard before, that 60 on up to 80% of the results you see will come from what you put into your mouth. So I don't care how physically active you are. I don't care how much exercise you do. If you don't eat right, and eat right is different for everyone, but if you don't eat right for you, you will struggle losing weight. But then what do I do? We've got the keto diet, we've got paleo, we've got carnivore, we've got Mediterranean, vegan, low carb, Atkins, no carb, all these different diets. So again, just like with all the fitness information coming from all different places, nobody's got time to be trying all these different diets and trying to figure out which ones work and which ones don't. So the goal is to figure out which ones work for you. Now, it will be difficult tonight in this short talk to figure out what diets work best. However, there are certain things that we probably will get a chance to talk about tonight that will give you more of an idea of what might work for you. But then you have medical conditions. So you got everything from different cardiovascular illnesses to diabetes to thyroid issues. Even some cancers will make it more difficult for you to lose weight. And it's almost like a double-edged sword, because those same illnesses that were somewhat caused by an imbalance in your weight, or at least somewhat, are also make losing weight harder. So you're getting it from both ends if you have any of those illnesses, and then you have hormonal issues. So if you're over the age of 30, 35, 40, hormones play a huge role in weight loss. So you have everything from estrogen to testosterone, cortisol, or hormones. If they are out of balance, you will have a hard time losing weight. But the whole point of this is that having a hard time losing weight is not impossible. I've helped plenty of people overcome all of these issues that I just talked about with proper diet and exercise. So if you felt like in the past that it's impossible to lose weight and I just don't know what to do, I don't know how to get myself there, rest assured that although it will be difficult, if you're doing the right things, weight loss is not impossible. So when we talk about the fundamentals of weight loss, and I always tell my clients, you're going to get sick and tired of hearing me say this, but this is where the simple piece comes in. That weight loss truly is, when we separate out health and we just talk about weight loss truly is calories in versus calories out, or what we call energy balance. So essentially, to keep it simple and to give you a visual, when you step on your scale, that scale is going to do one of three things. The scale is either going to go up, it's going to go down, or it's going to stay the same. And each of those moves means something. So of course, if your scale, man, maybe I shouldn't say of course, but most of us know if your scale is going up, that means that the amount of energy that's coming in is greater, greater than what's going out. So you're taking in more calories than you're burning. That's called a calorie surplus, which means you're going to gain weight. If the scale is going down, that means that you are burning more calories than you're taking in. And generally speaking, if the scale is staying even, that means that the amount of calories that are coming in and the amount of calories that are going out are about the same. And diet and activity work to balance this. So just finding the right amount of each that you need to do. And I always tell my clients that weight loss is a math equation. It's simple math. You've probably heard before that a pound equals 3,500 calories. So what that would mean, to keep it simple, is if I wanted to lose 1 pound per week, that simply means that I need to create a calorie deficit, means that the calories that are coming in, or the calories that are being burned, are greater than what's coming in, of roughly around 500 calories per day. If I do that at the end of the week, I can expect to lose a pound a week. So I've oftentimes, and I always tell my clients, the reason why I'm able to help them lose weight, because I am not emotionally invested in weight loss for them. Oftentimes, when you're the one trying to lose weight and the scale's not moving in the direction that you want it to move in, we can get very frustrated. And oftentimes that frustration leads to less clear thinking. And with me, I come in and I can just analyze the data. So I have all my clients track everything that they eat. They track all their physical activity, and they bring that activity back to me at the end of the week, and we sit down and we look at the data. And oftentimes, almost 100% of the times, the data lines up with the result. So a few days ago, actually maybe about a week ago, one of my clients says to me, he says, the scale no longer stresses me out. I no longer get anxious about the scale. And I knew why, but I asked him, I said, why do you no longer get anxious by the scale? And he says, because you've taught me how to look at the scale, how to read the data, and how to understand what's happening. So I know that when I've gained weight, I know exactly why, which means I also know what to do. Now, the challenge with this is staying consistent. And this is where most people fail. Now, there's a study out there that looks at severe caloric restriction. And if anybody's been dieting before to lose weight, and you probably know what severe caloric restriction is. And what this study showed was that if you are, for every 12 months that you are severely calorically restricted, it could take up to 90 days to correct your metabolism. Now, your metabolism is the rate at which your body burns calories for energy. So if you want to lose weight, it's better to have a faster metabolism than a slower metabolism. But just imagine if you've been restricting calories severely, and severely is probably not as much as you believe it is. For each individual, that number is different. But if you've been on a severe calorically restricted diet for a year, that could slow your metabolism to where it could take up to 90 days for you to correct that slowing, which means that you may have to go for a period of time of doing the things and not seeing much results. So I always tell my clients the two most important things that you will need when you start your journey for success are patience and consistency. A lot of people get their journey started, and what they'll say is, well, I didn't gain all this weight overnight, so I'm not going to lose it overnight. And that is true. But because of our lack of patience, even though we say that, when we don't see those numbers moving immediately, oftentimes people will say, well, I tried that diet and I tried this. And the problem is that you didn't try it long enough. Or rather, you tried it, but you didn't commit to it. So oftentimes consistency is so important, and you may have to do these things for a period of time without seeing much result, while continuing to do it until you start seeing the progress. I had one client recently where it took us about 12 weeks of gradually increasing. She had been yo-yo dieting for years before her and I had started working together. And we had to gradually increase our calories by about 100 calories. When she met me, she was eating about 600 calories per day. Now, she did that. Now, initially, if you start doing that, you will lose weight. The problem, however, is you will crash your metabolism, and your body's main responsibility is to keep you alive. And oftentimes, severe caloric restriction goes against survival. So your body will downregulate everything else. So you will start to notice a weight loss slow down, and eventually, no matter what you do, your weight loss will come to a halt. And then you're wondering, well, why am I not losing weight? Because I'm doing exactly what I was doing that helped me lose all this weight before. And now all of a sudden I'm not losing weight. So that's exactly what this client had happen to her when she met me. And then we gradually went from 600 calories. Every week we increased her calories by 100 calories. Now, here's how she knew it was working. Because generally speaking, if you start increasing your calories, what would you think would happen? We're taught if we eat more, your weight would go up. Well, what she noticed was that she wasn't gaining weight. We went up to 700 calories, no weight gain. We went up to 800 calories, no weight gain. 900 calories, no weight gain. Now, from her and I working together, I assessed that she needed to be eating somewhere between 1,600 and 1,900 calories per day to lose weight. That was her 1 pound per week deficit. She was all the way down at 600 when I met her, and it worked in the beginning, but it was a very short-lived period of time where it worked. So we got her up to about 1,400 calories, still no weight gain, but no weight loss. The very next week when we hit 1,500 calories, she noticed her first 2-pound weight loss. So after this was about a period of, I would say, 8 or so weeks, 9, 10 weeks, where she had to endure increasing calories. And in her mind, she's thinking, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. You're telling me I need to eat more to lose weight? But she trusted the process. She knew that what she was doing wasn't working. She knew she had to do something else. So at about 1,500 calories, she noticed her first 2-pound weight loss. And ever since now, she's been losing weight at about half a pound to a pound per week. So she went from losing nothing to now we've been working together probably about 4 months, and she's lost about a half a pound to a pound a week since. So this is what I mean when I say you probably are going to need to be patient. When you're starting your journey, you may notice initially quicker weight loss, but then that weight loss naturally will slow down. Now, who knows what's going to be happening in about 2 months, 60 days from today? Who knows what's going to be happening? Anybody, you can unmute yourself and tell me. New Year's resolutions. Now, how many of you, by a show of hands, you can just raise your hand, will be setting a New Year's resolution that will be related to getting into better shape, losing weight, or getting healthier? By a show of hands, just raise your hands and let me know. So quite a few of you will be working on trying to lose weight during this New Year's resolution season. And I always say, we always know what happens during that time of year. People they're all hot and heavy and ready to go. And then by week 3 in January, they've fizzled out and they have given up because they lack the patience. And the reason why I'm spending so much time talking about this is getting started. The goal is for you to get started now and for us to create a lifestyle for you. So we start and we never stop. So let's move on. I don't want to harp on that too much, but it's super important. Now, the 3 big pillars, what I call the 3 big pillars of weight loss, and we're not going to spend too much time on this slide because I'm going to delve a little bit more into these as we go, but mindset, nutrition, and movement. And mindset is the one thing that most people overlook. And the reason why that is because I think people are always looking for actionable things. I am the type of person where I hate going to talks and they just tell you to think positive and I'm like, wait, what am I supposed to do with that? Give me some things that I can do that I can immediately, when I leave this talk, I can use. Mindset is not one of them, but mindset is one of the most important things if you are going to reach your goals. Now, the reason why mindset is so important, I call it the missing piece, is because there's three what I call stages to success throughout the journey. And the quicker you go through those stages, the better results and the quicker you're going to get those results. So when everyone starts a journey, a fitness weight loss journey, they start in the motivation phase. January 1st, everybody's super motivated. And that's great. Motivation is good enough to light the fire, but it's not good enough to keep the candle burning. So the problem with motivation is you're never, hardly ever, going to be motivated to do hard things. We're never going to be motivated to do things that cause pain. We're never going to be motivated to do things that we don't like doing. And quite honestly, most people that get great results don't necessarily like to eat really good. They don't necessarily like to do a whole bunch of exercise. I will be the first to admit that eating junk food is fun. But I understand that I can't do it very often or it's going to go against the goals that I have. So we start in motivation, but then we have to transition into discipline. And discipline simply means that we do the things that we know we should do, regardless of if you want to do it or not. And a lot of my clients will hear me say, and today was one of those days, they will hear me say that I will never skip a workout just because I don't feel like doing it. I don't care if I don't want to do it or not. I am going to do it because I know the only bad workouts are the ones I don't do. And if I show up and I do something, that's better than laying my behind in the bed and wishing I would have went, because that's exactly what happens when I don't go. And I know that happens for a lot of people. You say, I should go work out, but I don't feel like going to work out. I'm lazy. And you don't work out. And what happens later on? You're like, I should have went to go work out. That happens to me every single time. So every time I don't feel like going, I go anyway. And today I had the worst workout of my life, but I showed up at the gym and I was glad I did. So that's the second phase, is discipline. You're going to need to eat good. You're going to need to follow your meal plan when you don't want to. It just is the way it is. If you only did the things that were necessary when you wanted to, the reality is that 50% of the time, at least 50% of the time, you are not going to want to do it. At least 50% of the time, you're going to want to eat crap when you should eat good. At least 50% of the time, you are not going to want to work out when you know you should. I tell my clients we live by 80-20. I tell all my clients, if you do what I tell you to do at least 80% of the time, you are going to get really, really good results. That means that you don't need to be perfect, but you need to do the right things most of the time. So the third phase, and most people will never get to this phase. A lot of people will kind of go back and forth between the discipline and the last phase, which is habit. You want to get to the point. Why did you say you're Google, bro? Say that again? Why you say you're Google, bro? You ain't even Google. You say you're pen. Wait, I didn't. That wasn't for you. Oh, that wasn't for me. That wasn't for me. I'm sorry. My bad. I'm sorry. Talking to his son. If you listen to what he said. Okay. So for me, the discipline phase is where ideally you would like to be at. You would like to be at the phase where you're doing it. No, I'm sorry, not discipline. We're talking about the habit. So discipline and then habit. Now, a lot of people may never get to habit, but that's ideally where you want to be. And I tell all of my clients, my goal is to get you to the point where you are no longer doing this because you're trying to lose weight, that you are no longer doing this because you are trying to get into better shape. But I exercise because it's just what I do. I exercise because it makes me feel good. And the result of me doing it, the result of making it part of my life, is that I look good, I feel good, and I've lost weight. But I'm not doing it for weight loss. That's the point where we want to get to. That's the habit where it just happens. Also, with your diet, I'm not, this is no longer a diet. I don't eat this way because I'm trying to lose weight. I eat this way because this is just the way I eat. I identify as a person that takes care of themselves. I identify as a person that cares about my health and my fitness. And I identify as an exerciser and someone that eats this way. I'm no longer eating this way for weight loss. This is now just the way I eat. So those are the three phases of a successful journey. Now, you want to make your environment mimic those things. It's much easier if your environment follows suit. So get all the junk out of your house. I know that's not always possible. Unless you live by yourself, then it's probably pretty possible. But if you have a family, it's not always possible. But in those events, I find it funny how we will have people in our lives that we count on, but we won't really let them in on what we're trying to accomplish. And we just expect them to know that we're trying to get into better shape, that we're trying to lose weight. So I always encourage my clients to tell your loved ones what you're trying to do, because if you want to get the support of the people around you, they need to explicitly know what you need their help with. If you have a spouse and you need them to help you on this journey, they should know what this journey entails. So create the environment, shape your environment so that your environment breeds success. Make sure you're meal prepping. Make sure you're doing all of those things that are going to lead you down the route of success and not down the path of failure. Now, again, we talked about building the habits. We don't want to focus on this being a diet, but most importantly, a lot of people fail because they're looking to be perfect. It's this all or nothing attitude. And that's why I say with a lot of my clients, with all of my clients, we go by 80-20. You don't need to be perfect. And I tell my clients, the good thing is you don't need to be perfect to reach your goals, but you do need to do the right thing. So it's always progress over perfection, or progress, not perfection. So mindset, really, really important. Now, nutrition, which is what I like to call the foundation. Now, you may have heard before that up to anywhere from 60 to 80% of the results you see will come from what you put in your mouth. Now, you've also probably heard that you cannot out train a bad diet. Now, bad diet is different for everyone. What's bad for you is going to be different than what's bad for me. But the way I look at bad is anything that leads you further away from where you want to be and not closer to where you want to be. So any diet that is not helping you is hurting you. I don't believe that there's any, when it comes to your goals, any in between foods. If the food is not helping you, it is hurting you. There's no real neutral foods. That doesn't mean, again, you need to be perfect, but you need to do the right things most of the time. So if you got nothing else out of this talk tonight, this is the slide you should pay most attention to, because this is going to give you the framework for exactly what you should do with your diet. So the first thing, focus on having protein at every single meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and the snacks in between. Now, you've probably heard of protein being the building blocks of muscle, and this is true. Amino acids, protein. But there's other reasons why protein is super important. Now, one of the main ones when it comes to diet is most diets fail because of hunger. It's going to be really difficult to stick to any diet when you're hungry. So if you can avoid hunger, you can successfully navigate through your diet with probably more success than you have in the past. So add protein into each one of your meals. But protein also helps to keep you full, and it helps you to build muscle. So we'll talk a little bit more about protein's role in muscle building later. But you also want to focus on eating real food and focus less on having the processed food. So we know the sugar, the junk, the cakes, the candy, anything in a package, anything with a barcode on it. Now, again, not saying that these foods are bad, but if these foods make up the majority of your diet, you will struggle losing weight. I I always have my clients eat what I call single ingredient foods. Essentially, it's a food that has one ingredient. If you look at the back of the label and it's got 10, 15, 100 ingredients, half of them you can't pronounce, it's probably not very good. And the more ingredients it has and the more of them you can't pronounce, the more highly processed that food is. Those foods are meant to make you addicted so that you keep buying them, so you are a lifelong customer and you never lose weight. If you start eating more whole foods, single ingredient foods, you're going to be more full, you're going to be more satisfied, and you're going to have a much easier time losing weight. Now, hydration is hugely important because oftentimes signs of thirst feel like signs of hunger. So a lot of times what I'll tell my clients is if you feel hungry, ask yourself, when was the last time you had something to drink? Preferably water. And if the answer is not in an hour or more, what you would want to do is go get 1 or 2 glasses of water and drink that water and wait a little while. If that hunger goes away, then it was probably that you were dehydrated and in need of water than food. But another thing is fiber. Fiber does many amazing things for your body. But one of the main things it does for weight loss is it helps keep you full longer. And fiber with protein and hydration is the 1, 2, 3 punch to weight loss. Now, another reason why you're going to want to add more fiber into your diet is because, especially if your body's not used to getting a lot of protein, what you will notice is things like constipation, gas, bloating, very uncomfortable if you're not balancing it out with a lot of fiber. So you might be asking yourself now, well, that's all good, Coach Will, but how much protein do I need? How much water should I be drinking? How much fiber do I need? And those are all great questions. And I can't tell you exactly specifically how much you should be having without working with you directly. But what I can say is I can give you some guides. Now, for protein, you would want to take about 0.5 gram to 1 gram of protein per pound of your ideal body weight. And ideal body weight is key. It's not your current body weight, but it's the body weight that your goal body weight. Because you're not trying to eat for where you are, you're trying to eat for where you're going. So about 0.5 gram per to 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight. That's protein. Now, as far as fiber, men and women are slightly different. So for all of my female clients, I encourage them to work their way from anywhere from 25 grams of fiber per day to 35 grams of fiber per day. And for my male clients, anywhere from 35 to 45. Now, through experimentation, I found that for myself, roughly about that 35 to 40 grams of fiber a day is the perfect spot where my digestion is amazing, no bloating, no discomfort. Everything is moving smooth because the thing is that you could be eating all these nutritious foods and getting in all the right protein, but if you're not digesting the food properly, you're not getting all the nutrition from the food. And oftentimes, with higher protein amounts, people fall in their weight simply because they're constipated and they're not going to the bathroom. So you want to make sure you have that fiber in your system to keep everything moving smoothly, but also to keep you full. Because remember, most diets fail not because the diet doesn't work, but because of hunger. Now, another thing you want to do is you want to plan ahead. One thing I tell my clients is if you are not tracking, you are not prepping, you are not planning, you are planning to fail. You know how the saying goes. So you should be planning and prepping the majority of your food. When I look at most of my successful clients over my 35 years in the business, there's certain things that they all pretty much have in common. And one of them is the fact that they all plan and prep their meals. They don't just make the day up as they go, but they're very precise about everything that goes into their mouths. So the more you plan and prep, the more successful you're going to be. Now, let's talk more about the traps, the nutrition traps. So liquid calories, your coffees, your soft drinks, and even alcohol. Now, I am not here to tell you that you can't partake in an alcoholic beverage here or there, or you can't have a soda here or there. But what I will say is if these things make up more than 10 to 20% of your daily, weekly calories, and you're not losing weight, that is probably one of the reasons why. So you really want to look at where your calories are coming from. And instead of drinking your calories, you more want to chew your calories. Now, you also want to look out for what I call the healthy processed foods. And these companies rely on marketing to sell their products because they know that the majority of people are not going to really look at the packaging. They're not going to turn over the labels and they're not going to read the back of the package. They're going to look at all the advertising and marketing on the front of the package and they're going to make their decision based on that. So you got your words like gluten-free and high protein and organic. All of these things are ways because these companies know that people are thinking more about their health and they know that high protein is the thing now. So you'll see protein waffles, protein pizza, protein rice, protein cookies, protein muffins, protein bagels, protein chips. Everything's got the word protein on it that 10 to 20 years ago never had the word protein on it. And it was just probably a few months ago, I was in the store and I was looking at protein pasta, and there was two versions of the same pasta. One had big protein letters on it, and the one didn't. The one next to it didn't. And the only difference between these two pastas per serving was 2 grams of protein. That the one that had the big words protein on it had 2 extra grams of protein over the one that didn't. However, the serving size was different. So even though this one had more protein in it, the serving size was bigger, which means that you were eating more calories. You would have been better off eating the one that didn't have more protein in it if your goal was losing weight. Now, again, most people are not going to go that deep into it, so they would never know. They would see the word protein and think, oh, everybody's saying I should be eating more protein, so I'm just going to go and buy this one. And they end up making the mistake of thinking that that's the way they should go. So watching out for all the healthy processed snacks. Now, this is another thing, this next tip, the mindless eating at night. This is a pro weight loss tip. If I can give you one thing to walk away from this talk tonight and start to implement, is create some distance between your bedtime and your last meal. And the further that distance is, the easier time you're going to have with weight loss. So I find, generally speaking, now this is not easy. If you're used to eating an hour or 2 hours prior to bed, this is not going to be easy. But you work your way back slowly. If you're used to eating an hour before bed, turn that hour into an hour and a half. Allow your body to slowly get used to that hour and a half and then turn that hour and a half into 2 hours. Allow your body to get used. Slow and steady wins the race. But the more time you can put in between your last meal and your bedtime, the easier time you're going to have losing weight. Because although calories are ultimately most important, these little things do make a difference. So the food that you eat close to your bedtime, your body doesn't have enough time to process and digest that food. And whatever your body does not process and digest, your body's going to convert that food into fat. So, generally speaking, I tell my clients that I want to work them to about 5 hours before bed. So, their last meal should be roughly about 5 hours. And all of my clients that get to 3 to 5 hours, not only do they notice quicker weight loss, but they also notice that they sleep better. And what is sleeping better going to lead to? You having better energy the next day, you performing better at your daily tasks, and also having having less cravings. But the cravings that you do have, you will be better able to control those cravings because of all the hormonal effects that you get from getting better quality sleep and not eating so late. And the last thing that I want to emphasize on this slide is understanding portion sizes. A lot of people think because they're eating healthy, it doesn't matter how much they eat. And I tell all my clients that is not true, because I've seen plenty of people gain weight from eating the right things, but eating too much. So you can overeat anything and still go in the wrong direction. So you want to make sure you're eating the right and eating the right amount and understanding portion sizes. So nutrition myths, and you probably heard a lot of these, and we won't spend too much time on this slide, but carbs and fat do not make you fat. Okay. I have plenty of clients for whatever reason on high carb diets. Carbs are not the enemy. Carbs have become the enemy over the years simply because carbs are very easy for most people to overeat. Again, I will admit, and I'm a diabetic, I will admit that carbs taste good. The carbs we should probably be avoiding: the starches, the breads, the rice, the pasta, the potatoes, the sweets, all the junk, all the stuff that tastes amazing. Those things do not make you fat. It's how much you eat. So some of you have probably heard or even seen this documentary. It was called Super Size Me. And one guy, for 30 days, he ate nothing but McDonald's for 30 days. He got his blood work done in the beginning and he got his blood work done at the end. And the reason why it was called Super Size Me is because I don't know if McDonald's still does it, but back then they would always ask you when you ordered a meal, did you want to supersize it? And he had to always say yes. If they asked him if he wanted to supersize it, he had to say yes. So he was eating 3 meals per day from McDonald's. Now, prior to this documentary, he was exercising. I think he was like a runner or something, but he was an avid exerciser. He stopped exercising and he ate McDonald's every meal for 30 days. At the end, he did his blood work again, and all of his markers for health, cholesterol, sugar, triglycerides, everything was through the roof, where before the study, it was all normal. But then, I think it was 2 or 3 other people redid it, but they did it slightly different. They all ate junk food. I know one of them ate Twinkies and the other 2 ate fast food, and they did the same thing for 30 days. But what they did was they all did the energy balance thing that we talked about. So they all continued to exercise. But the key thing they did was, even though they were eating junk, they were not overeating. So they stayed in what's called a caloric deficit, again, where they're burning more than they're taking in. And those 3 people, all 4 of them, ate crap throughout that 30 days. However, the 3 that redid it all lost weight, and all of their blood markers improved over that period of time. What was different between them? They all ate junk, but the 3 people that lost weight didn't overeat. So this study, again, it was a study of 4 people, so it wasn't a huge study, but it does go to show that what I tell my clients is that it's not, when it comes to weight loss, it's more important about how much you eat than what you eat, because you can overeat the quote unquote good foods and still gain weight. Now, another one is fasting is the best way to lose weight. And fasting could be a great way to, but it's not the best way to lose weight for everyone. So the main thing with fasting, and the reason why it works so well for some people, is because fasting is just another form of caloric restriction. Again, being in a caloric deficit, because most people that fast, oftentimes they either skip breakfast or they skip dinner. Now, fasting is not about what you eat, it's more about when you eat, but that's oftentimes what happens. So a lot of people do lose weight, but don't think, there's plenty of people that fast that don't lose weight. Now, the next one is starvation mode. You've probably heard this: if I don't eat, my body's going to go into starvation mode and I'm going to gain weight. This, again, is not true. You do not gain weight by under eating. You will, however, have a hard time losing weight. So if you've noticed that no matter what you do, you cannot lose weight. Now, again, there's a difference between gaining weight and not losing weight. And a lot of people oftentimes get those confused. But if you notice that your weight just won't move, every time you step on the scale, your weight is about the same. Maybe up a pound, half a pound, down a half a pound, but it's roughly about the same. There could be a chance that you're not eating enough, just like my client that I was talking to you earlier about. So there's no such thing as starvation mode. You are not going to starve yourself. Your body will do whatever it needs to do to get you to stay alive, to get you to eat. So the truth is, like I said before, consistency and total calories matter. Okay. Now, let's move on to exercise. Now, exercise is important. It's not, you've already heard me say that you can't out train a bad diet. I don't care how much exercise you do, you will not outrun your diet. You will need to make sure that you eat good or good for you, no matter how much exercise you do. But here's the reason why exercise is so important, because exercise helps to build your metabolism. Now, strength training and cardio do it differently. Now, lifting weights, and I remember years ago when my female clients in the early 90s, mid 90s would say, I don't want to lift weights because I don't want to be big. I don't want to look like a man. I have never met in my 35 years of coaching and training, ever met one woman that ever turned into a man from lifting weights. It just does not happen. And now, thanks to social media, lifting weights has become such a positive thing for women, where having a more toned, muscular physique is acceptable for women. And the good thing is, those women are probably going to live longer than the women that were in the gyms in the early 90s, just going to aerobics classes and doing the step aerobics and all of that. Either way, it's all good. But resistance training is super important. Muscle is your metabolic currency. The more muscle you have, the faster your metabolism is going to be, and the faster and more fat you are going to burn. So you are going to want to lift weights. However, you're also going to want to do cardio. Super important as well. So running, dancing, Zumba, stair climbing, hiking, whatever you can do to keep your body moving. One is not necessarily more important than the other when it comes to weight loss, but you want to do a combination. But one little thing that a lot of people don't really know about or haven't heard about is what's called NEAT. NEAT stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So this is just how much you move throughout the course of your day. So I have a standing desk. Oftentimes I will stand at that desk and I'll sit, and I'll always notice that the times where I'm standing, I'm burning more calories than sitting, even while doing the same work that I normally do. So you've already heard, you want to park further away from the doors of the shopping centers that you're going to so you can walk more. You want to take the stairs instead of the escalator or the elevator. Stand more than you sit. That's super important, because if you work out 2 or 3 times a day, but you sit, 2 to 3 times a week, but you sit the majority of your day, you're still not moving enough. So trying to make your day just more physically active. Now, when we talk about why muscle matters, okay, more muscle equals a higher resting metabolism. So what does that mean? It simply means your metabolism at rest. So if you have 2 versions of you that's at 30% body fat and one version of you that's at 10% body fat, most likely the version of you that's at 10% body fat will have more muscle mass than the version of you that's at 30% body fat. So if you two were to sit on the couch and watch TV together, at the end of the day, the version of you at 10% body fat is going to lose more weight than the version of you at 30% body fat. Okay, because your resting metabolism is higher. Now, for every pound of muscle that you gain, that raises your resting metabolism anywhere from 50 to 100 calories per day. This is why muscle is your metabolic metabolism, because the more of it you have, the more calories you are going to burn doing absolutely nothing. So if you are lazy, you want to build muscle, because you can be lazy and still lose weight. No pun intended. You probably still need to do more than just being lazy, but if you wanted to be lazy, you could be and still lose weight just by adding more muscle. Now, muscle also improves what's called your body composition. So how much muscle you have and how much fat. Most people, when they say they want to lose weight, they don't mean they want to lose weight. They mean I want to lose a little bit of this. I want to lose a little bit of these love handles. I want to lose a little bit of this thigh meat. That is fat, not weight. Just we know it as fat as weight. But nobody wants to lose muscle, nobody wants to lose water, everybody wants to lose fat. But also at the same time, having a more pleasing physique, a more toned, more tight physique, you're just going to be more confident. You're going to age better, but also so many things about you improve. You're going to be healthier when you have more muscle. And especially if you're over the age of 40, strength training is so important because as we get older, building muscle is harder and losing muscle is easier. So as we get older, it's not just important to build muscle, but it's also important to preserve the muscle that you already have. Super important.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Because I've been the whole time you've been talking, I've been thinking about it. And I've been thinking about my mindset. And hearing this is good because some of it I've heard and some of it I've never heard. And I'm trying to like process it and put it all together. But I go back to something you said about fasting. Is intermittent fasting good? Because it's kind of like this. You said there's so much information. It's like some people say you eat oranges, you get cancer, and some people say you don't eat oranges, you won't get cancer. So I don't know. So I just want to at least hear your take on it.
Yeah, so I think again, I think fasting, and I think it goes back to those individuals that if you're someone that is already struggling not eating enough, intermittent fasting probably is not going to be great for you. Simply because, again, although intermittent fasting is not about how much you eat, but it's about when you eat. Intermittent fasting is not even about what you eat. So oftentimes, a lot of people will combine intermittent fasting with something else. Intermittent fasting and low carb, intermittent fasting and keto. Okay, so keto will be the diet. Intermittent fasting will be just when you eat the food. But the problem is if you're someone, again, that's noticing that you're not losing weight. So if you're gaining weight and you need to eat less, intermittent fasting could be really good simply because you don't get to be overweight by under eating. You get to be overweight because you eat too much and you don't move enough. So that person, even though intermittent fasting is not about how much you eat, they're naturally going to eat less because you're going to skip a meal oftentimes. Most people, again, are either going to intermittent fast where their eating window is in the morning, so they're going to skip dinner, or their eating window is at night where they're going to skip breakfast. So
that's good. And again, it goes back to mindset. Now, something that helped me, that you helped me with when you said to me, because I kept saying, oh, when I go down to Buffalo, I'm going to eat my chicken wings and pizza when I get with Kim. And I'm texting pictures, and then I felt like really bad. So then you said to me, Carla, food is not bad. But it took me a moment to get that in my head. So I kept sneaking, like, I'm going to eat this or I ate that. I had a Twinkie, not the Twinkie, I did the Hostess cupcake. And I was feeling bad because I felt like I was cheating. And then I had to tell myself, you got to drink a lot of water and you move more. So I didn't gain and I didn't lose. And I didn't want to live like that anymore. So now I'm free. So can you speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah, I think, and I always tell my clients that there are no good or bad foods. Food is not evil. And this is why I say I oftentimes feel bad for carbohydrates because carbs have gotten a really bad rap over the years simply because, not because carbs are bad. And I will agree that you probably need to stay away from the carbs that you know or the foods that you know you struggle with. There's We all here tonight have certain foods that we know it's going to be very difficult for us to eat a little bit of those foods. And those foods can easily send you off the deep end. For me, that food is peanut butter. That's why I don't eat peanut butter anymore because I know I will not just eat a little bit. All I need is a jar and a spoon, and that jar and spoon will be gone within an hour. I have a problem when it comes to peanut butter. So for me, peanut butter is not bad. It's not a bad food. Great source of protein, great source of vitamins, great source of fat. Peanut butter is not bad. I have the problem because I can't control how much I eat of it. So it's not a bad food, but for me and my goals, it is bad for me. But there
And
are no, what was that?
I was gonna say, and I think that's a good point because I know when I do eat the chicken wings, then I spiral. Not now, I'm doing much better, but I used to spiral. Then I'm eating it every day or every other day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can I just ask for just for time's sake? Is it okay if we can have a couple of people ask some
Of
questions?
course. And I was going to say that anyway because I told you I will just talk and talk and talk because I love this topic. So I will just keep going and going and going. If you guys have any questions, because I know we're coming close to the end of the hour, if you guys
Yeah,
have any
that's
questions, feel free to ask.
I want them to put their hand up if they have questions, and then I want to at least leave 5 minutes. It won't take me that long to do communion, and I might not be able to see everybody's hand. I
Mm-hmm.
probably have to unshare the
Yeah.
unshare, and then y'all can use the what do you call it, the reaction. Use your hand, and then it'll take you directly to the front. Josetta. Question: how do you motivate your clients who really don't like to work out?
See, that's a tough one because I will tell people that you got to find something that you enjoy. Like if you don't enjoy lifting, you need to find something that you do. I used to teach Zumba years ago, and I did it because I knew it was something that people enjoyed doing. And the reality is that anything that you enjoy doing, you're going to do more often. And the more often you do anything, the better results you're going to get from it. So it doesn't have to, I think exercise is just like diet. There's no one size fits all. Yes, you should do some form of strength training. Okay, but you gotta find something that you enjoy. Maybe you enjoy a class, a strength training class where you go and you work out to music and you work out with a bunch of other people. Maybe you don't enjoy go. You have to find what works for you because everybody has something that works for them. So, some I've yet to have a client or my 35 years of doing this that didn't enjoy some form of exercise. So you just got to find what works for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who's next?
Christian, you're next.
I'll go. What do you think about the theory that eating by blood type is something that you should do because some people are very meat heavy, and then they'll say other people it will destroy you if you eat meat, and so I don't know if that's logical, not logical, or what.
I think that was something that was really popular when I first got into this business. Like 35 years ago, the blood type was really, really popular. And I think that's kind of shifted from blood type to more food sensitivity tests, where you can go and get a test to find out what foods you have sensitivity to. Because I will agree that, again, every food is not right for everybody. You've got the big gluten intolerance now where people are gluten, have celiac and issues with gluten. You have some people that don't respond well to high protein for whatever reason. They may have kidney issues or may have some other cardiovascular issues where they can't eat high protein. You may have some people that will respond better to the Mediterranean style diet. Some people that will to a pescatarian style diet, but everybody's slightly different. So, although I do think there's still a lot of validity in blood type, I think it's not as popular as it once was, but it does make sense that we're all slightly different.
How do you go about doing those tests? Because I do feel like there are probably some things that I probably shouldn't be eating,
Mm-hmm.
and it may be something that's categorized as healthy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you can easily go to your now a lot of places now, and I don't know if they have I'm sure they have something in your area, but these blood draw places like Quest or LabCorp, any of these places where you can purchase these tests alone by themselves, even if your doctor, you can go to your doctor and see if your doctor will give you a prescription, but you can easily go and purchase these tests for yourself. Go there and then they can do it and send it to your doctor or send it to the lab, and then they can tell you specifically what foods you have an allergy to. And a lot of these tests aren't that expensive these days. So that's the easiest way to do it. Who's next?
All right. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I couldn't find the hand raise things. I was looking for
That's all right.
Okay. My question is, when you're dealing with, it's kind of two questions.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're dealing with women who have, who are that over 40 group,
mm-hmm.
and they're saying like their hormones are all over the place, what do you suggest with that? And then the second part, my second question is, do you think that it's realistic to gain 10 pounds of muscle in a year?
Okay, good questions. I'll answer the muscle, the 10 pounds of muscle in a year first. So, in reason, because that's a much simpler question to answer. Now, they say science shows that naturally the average person will gain, and now this is someone that's exercising strength training 3 to 4 times a week, will gain on average anywhere between 8 to 15 pounds of muscle per year. Now, this is consistently. So, you need to be working out 3 to 4 times a week. Every week, you will gain roughly about 8 to 15 pounds of muscle over the course of a 12-month period. That's natural. So that is very realistic. 10 pounds is very realistic. Now, it's the question, the first question you asked, which I'm going to answer now, which is, women over 40. We in some women hit this perimenopause and menopause at some point in life. And look, I say there's nothing to be ashamed at that, hitting that phase of life. But there are certain things that you need to do differently. There's certain things that you need to prioritize. Okay. But relieving stress and managing stress is important because your body is producing less of certain hormones and more of other hormones. During the later phases of our lives, our bodies produce more hormones that make it harder to lose weight, more of those, and produce less of the hormones that make it easier to lose weight. So gaining weight is just easier. And it is sad, but it is true that women will have a harder time as they age than men will. Again, hard does not mean impossible. It just means that it will be difficult. So what I oftentimes tell my clients, and you always want to go to your doctor to make sure that everything is right. Because years ago, I had this one client. She was working out with me 3 to 4 times a week. She was doing everything and she wasn't losing any weight. And I said to her, I said, have you ever had your thyroid checked recently? She said, no, I had it checked a few years ago and it was fine. So I said, why don't you go get it checked again? Just go to your doctor and get it checked. And wouldn't you know that she had an underactive thyroid? And her doctor put her on thyroid medication. Initially, she didn't want to take it. So and she kept struggling. So she just gave in and she said, I'm going to take it. I'm going to see because I said to her, what's the worst that could happen? You take the medication for a month or so. If it does nothing, you go back to not taking it. She took the medication and within 4 to 6 weeks, she started losing weight. Nothing changed. Nothing with what we were doing changed. Nothing with her diet changed. The only thing that was different was she was now taking the thyroid medication. Certain things as we get older, our bodies just becomes down-regulate things. We don't produce as much testosterone as men. Estrogen production in women changes. Thyroid hormone changes. All of these things change. And there are ways you can optimize these things. But oftentimes as we get older, so that would be the one thing I would say is make sure that all your hormones are in check first. And then once we got a thumbs up there, then it's just making sure we're eating right for you, but also getting your physical activity in line.
Kanisha has her hand raised, and I'll let that be the last question. But I would say, when you say that too, especially, I don't know about for men, but for women, we have to make sure that the complete blood work is being done. We don't do that all the time. And for whatever reason, what I've experienced working with women, they have to ask their doctor to do that. It's not that they always do. It definitely depends on the doctor. If you got a very thorough doctor, they don't mind going through 4 to 5 pages of blood work. A lot of them want to just do the very basics. And we have to be, if we're going to have these type of calls, if we're going to take ownership of our body, then it's okay for us to ask for that, because it doesn't cost them any extra money to run those tests. They can run them. It's just nothing more but just putting it, signing their name to it. It costs the same amount whether they run that test or not. So I just wanted to suggest that to everyone. I was ministering to a lady earlier today, and the Lord showed me a chart, and he said there's a test that starts with a T, and I had no idea about it, but when they looked it up, it was for all the symptoms she had, and she's going to ask her doctor. So I would just, and she hadn't done her blood work in a while, and it's interesting that you talked about the thyroid, because that's very tricky. It may be working in March, and I'm telling you, by June, that sucker be acting up. I mean, it's just the truth. It does. You know what I mean? You never had a problem. All of a sudden, you're like, what? Then you get it regulated. You go for 4 years, and it start acting again. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Kanisha, unmute. You asked your this will be the last question. We'll take communion and go. This has been so good. And Coach Will, we're so excited. Thank you for everything that
you are very welcome.
Okay, so my question is, and thank you for all the good information that you're giving us. But my question is, as far as for exercise, now I know HIIT training, high intensity interval training, HIIT cardio, and for steady state. What do you feel is better? That all depends.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors that will determine which is better. But here's the one thing I always tell my clients: whichever you're more likely to do more of, you're going to get the best results from. So, like for me, I'm a runner. I don't like doing HIIT cardio. So I'll do it once and I will never do it again. Like I used to teach classes, and the workouts that I would teach, I would never do those workouts on my own. And they were all HIIT workouts, but I wouldn't benefit from it because I just wouldn't do it. So if you enjoy doing HIIT classes and that's what you will do more frequently, that's what you're going to get the best results from. Now, if you enjoy doing both, what I would say is do a combination of the two to get the best results. You're welcome.
Well, all right, we're going to let that be the last question. I was running to get my communion. So, okay, so I tell you what, why don't everybody go and grab your communion? I'll give y'all a minute just to do that. And I need to grab mine.